Let's begin slowly. Take a steady breath in and let it out gently. There is a space in life that no one prepares you for. A space that is not loud, not dramatic, not even clearly defined, but deeply felt. It is the space between what you prayed for and what you can see, between the promise and the outcome, between the cross and the empty tomb. This is the space we rarely talk about because it does not feel victorious. It does not feel resolved. It does not feel like progress. It feels like stillness with questions. It feels like waiting without answers. It feels like silence when you expected direction. Take another slow breath. In the Christian story, there is a day that represents this space, a day that is often overlooked, a day with no recorded miracles, no visible movement, no clear explanation, a day where heaven seemed quiet. That day is often called Silent Saturday, the day after the crucifixion, the day before the resurrection. The disciples had heard the promises. They had seen the miracles. They had believed in what was coming. And yet, on that day, everything felt uncertain. Jesus had been crucified. The future was unclear. The expectations they carried no longer matched what they were seeing. And God appeared silent. No new instruction, no visible intervention, no immediate resolution. Just silence. Pause here, because this is where many people are right now, not at the beginning of faith, not at the fulfillment of breakthrough, but in between. You have prayed, you have believed, you have trusted, you have done what you knew to do, and yet what you are seeing does not yet reflect what you were hoping for. So the questions begin. Did I misunderstand? Is God still working? Why does it feel like nothing is happening? This space can feel disorienting because it does not match the language we often hear about faith. We are taught about breakthrough. We are taught about victory. We are taught about answered prayers, but we are rarely taught how to live in the silence between them. Take a steady breath in and release it slowly. If you are in that space right now, this episode is for you, not to rush you out of it, not to force an answer, but to help you understand it. Because this space, this quiet, uncertain, in-between space, is not empty, it is not meaningless, and it is not evidence that God has stopped working. In the next part, we will explore what Silent Saturday represents, not just historically, but personally, and why this kind of silence may be more significant than it first appears. For now, stay here, breathing, not rushing the process, not forcing clarity. You are not alone in the space between prayers and breakthrough. Take a slow breath in and let it out gently. Let's stay with this space a little longer. Silent Saturday is not just a day in history. It is a pattern, a rhythm that appears in many lives, in many seasons, in many stories of faith. It represents something deeply human and deeply spiritual at the same time. It represents waiting, not passive waiting, not casual delay, but the kind of waiting that carries weight. The kind where you have already invested faith, you have already prayed, you have already believed, and now there is nothing left to do but wait. Take another steady breath. Silent Saturday also represents confusion, because what you are seeing does not match what you expected. The disciples had heard Jesus speak of resurrection, but what they saw was a sealed tomb. They had witnessed power, but now they were facing silence. And confusion often sounds like this. This is not how I thought it would happen. I thought things would be clearer by now. I thought I would have answers by now. If you've ever felt that, you are not outside of faith. You are inside it. Silent Saturday also represents uncertainty. There was no timeline given, no clear indication of when things would change. And uncertainty stretches the heart because we are not just waiting for something to happen. We are waiting without knowing when. That kind of waiting can feel heavy. And then there is something even deeper. Silent Saturday represents the feeling of abandonment, not necessarily because God has left, but because he has not spoken. And silence, if not understood, can feel like distance. You may still believe in God, but you don't feel his nearness. You may still be praying, but you don't feel a response. You may still be standing in faith, but you feel alone. Pause here, because this is where many people quietly struggle. They don't say it out loud, but they feel it deeply. If God is here, why does it feel so quiet? Take a slow breath in and release it gently. Here is something important to understand. Scripture does not give us details about what happened on Silent Saturday. There are no recorded miracles, no conversations, no visible signs, just a gap. And that gap is not an accident. It is intentional because it mirrors something real. There are moments in life where God is working, but not speaking, moving, but not revealing, acting, but not explaining. And those moments can feel like nothing is happening, but silence is not the same as inactivity. In the next part, we'll begin to uncover why God allows these silent spaces and what is actually happening beneath what you can see. For now, stay here, breathing, acknowledging the weight of waiting, not rushing past it. There is meaning in this space, even if it has not yet been revealed. Take a slow breath in and let it out gently. When God is silent, the natural question is, why? Why would a God who speaks choose not to speak? Why would a God who moves appear still? Why would a God who promises allow a space that feels uncertain? These are not questions of doubt. They are questions of relationship. Because silence is hardest when you care. Take another steady breath. There are a few truths we can begin to hold on to, not as quick answers, but as a deeper understanding. First, silence is not absence. It may feel like God has stepped back, but throughout Scripture, some of God's most significant work happened out of sight, behind the scenes, beneath the surface, in places people could not observe. On Silent Saturday, nothing visible was happening, but everything was being set in motion. What looked like stillness was actually preparation. This matters for you, because just because you cannot see movement does not mean there is no activity. Take a slow breath. Second, silence is often a setup. We tend to associate God's presence with visible progress. But God often works in hidden stages, formation before manifestation, preparation before revelation, depth before display. What feels like delay may actually be development, and development is quiet. It doesn't announce itself. It doesn't always feel productive, but it is essential. Third, silence reveals what we trust. When God speaks clearly, trust feels easier. But when he is quiet, trust becomes internal, not based on what you hear in the moment, but on what you already know. This is where faith matures, not in constant reassurance, but in sustained trust. Take another steady breath. This is not about pretending silence is easy. It is not. Silence stretches you. It challenges your expectations. It exposes your fears. It tests your patience, but it also refines something deeper. It shifts you from needing constant confirmation to developing quiet confidence. Confidence not in outcomes, but in God's character. In the next part, we'll step into the emotional reality of this space, what the disciples likely felt, and why their experience may feel closer to yours than you think. For now, sit with this. God's silence is not empty. It is often full of unseen work. Take one more slow breath. What feels still may be more active than you realize. Take a slow breath in and let it out gently. We've talked about meaning. We've talked about silence. Now let's talk about emotion, because Silent Saturday was not just theological, it was deeply human. The disciples were not calm. They were not reflective. They were not peacefully waiting. They were overwhelmed. Try to imagine their experience. Just days before, they had walked closely with Jesus. They had seen miracles. They had heard promises. They had believed they understood what was coming. And now, everything had shifted. Jesus had been crucified, publicly, violently, unexpectedly. The one they trusted was no longer in front of them. The future they imagined no longer made sense, and God was silent. Take another steady breath. What do you think they felt? Confusion. This is not how we thought it would happen. Fear. If this happened to him, what happens to us? Disappointment. We thought he was the one. Grief. Everything feels lost. These were not weak people. These were committed followers. And yet they found themselves in a moment where faith and reality felt disconnected. Pause here, because this is where many people quietly live. You have believed, you have trusted, you have prayed, and yet what you are seeing does not match what you expected. So you feel confused, uncertain, disappointed, tired, and sometimes afraid to say it out loud because you think you're supposed to be stronger. But Silent Saturday shows us something important. Even those closest to God experience moments that did not make sense, moments where they had no clarity, no reassurance, no visible direction, and yet they were still part of the story. Take a slow breath in and release it gently. You do not have to hide your emotions to remain in faith. You do not have to pretend that everything feels okay. You are allowed to feel the weight of the in-between. The disciples stayed together in their confusion. They did not have answers, but they did not walk away, and that matters. In the next part, we'll begin to uncover what God was actually doing in that silence and what he may be doing in your life right now that you cannot yet see. For now, stay here, breathing, allowing your emotions without judgment. You are not alone in feeling this way. Even the disciples stood in this space. Take a slow breath in and let it out gently. From the outside, Silent Saturday looked empty. No miracles, no movement, no visible sign that anything was changing. But what appeared still was not inactive. God was working, just not in a way that could be seen. This is one of the most difficult truths. To hold on to God's work is not always visible while it is happening. Take another steady breath. There are things God does in hidden places. Work that does not announce itself. Work that does not come with immediate evidence. And often, it is the most important work. In seasons like this, God may be healing things you cannot yet measure, not just circumstances, but you, your heart, your thinking, your patterns, your expectations. There may be wounds being addressed quietly. There may be strength being developed gradually. There may be clarity forming beneath confusion, and none of it feels obvious while it is happening. Take a slow breath. God may also be rearranging things you cannot yet see. Closed doors, delayed opportunities, conversations that didn't happen, paths that shifted. What feels like stagnation may actually be redirection. What feels like delay may be protection. There are outcomes you cannot yet understand because you are still inside the process. And then there is preparation. God often prepares before he reveals. He builds capacity before he releases opportunity. He strengthens foundations before he adds weight. And preparation is quiet. It does not feel like progress, but it is necessary. Take another steady breath. If you look only at what is visible, you may conclude that nothing is happening. But if you widen your perspective, you begin to consider, what if something is happening that I cannot yet see? What if this silence is not emptiness, but concealment? Not absence, but hidden activity? This shift does not remove the discomfort, but it changes the meaning. You are not stuck in a place where nothing is happening. You may be in a place where everything important is happening out of sight. In the next part, we will make this practical. How to live through your own silent Saturday without losing hope, without misinterpreting the silence, and without giving up. For now, stay here, breathing, allowing a wider perspective. God's work is not always loud, but it is always intentional. Take a slow breath in and let it out gently. Understanding silent seasons is one thing. Living through them is another. Because when you are in it, the silence can feel heavy. The waiting can feel long. The uncertainty can feel personal. So how do you remain steady without losing hope? Not perfectly, not forcefully, but honestly. Take another steady breath. First, do not interpret silence as rejection. It is easy to assume if God is not responding, he must not be listening. But silence is not the same as no. And it is not the same as absence. There are times when God is working without speaking. And if you interpret silence incorrectly, you may withdraw when you are actually still being held. Second, anchor yourself in what God has already shown you. When there is no new direction, return to what you already know. Past faithfulness, past provision, past moments where things did not make sense, but still worked out. Silence does not erase what has already been proven. It invites you to remember it. Take a slow breath. Third, allow yourself to feel without abandoning your faith. Silent seasons are emotionally heavy. You may feel tired, confused, disappointed. That does not mean your faith is weak. It means you are human. You do not have to suppress your emotions to remain connected to God. You can feel deeply and still stay rooted. Fourth, stay connected. The disciples did not scatter completely. They stayed together, and in seasons of silence, isolation can make the experience heavier. Stay connected to people who can hold space for you, not to fix it, not to explain it, but to remind you that you are not alone in it. Take another steady breath. Finally, expect resurrection, even when you cannot imagine it. The disciples could not see what was coming. They could not picture how things would turn around. But resurrection was still on the way, and the same is true for you. You may not see the path yet. You may not understand the process. But silence is not the end of the story. In the final part, we will close with that hope. Not rushed, not exaggerated, but grounded. For now, stay here, breathing, holding steady, living faithfully in the space between. Take one slow breath in and let it out fully. Silent Saturday did not last forever, but when you are inside it, it can feel like it will. That is the nature of waiting. It stretches time. It blurs perspective. It makes the present feel permanent, but the story did not end. In silence, resurrection came, not early, not loudly, not in the way anyone expected, but it came. Take another steady breath. This is important to understand. Resurrection did not announce itself while it was approaching. There was no countdown, no warning, no visible sign that everything was about to change. From the outside, it still looked like silence, until suddenly it wasn't. That is often how God moves, quietly, gradually, then unmistakably. What feels still can shift. What feels delayed can unfold. What feels uncertain can become clear. Not always the way you imagined, but often in ways you could not have predicted. Take a slow breath. If you are in a silent season right now, this is not where your story ends. You are not stuck in a place where nothing is happening. You are in a space where something is forming, even if you cannot see it yet, even if you cannot feel it yet, even if you do not understand it yet. Resurrection does not require your full understanding. It requires your willingness to remain, to stay, to trust, to continue. Take another steady breath. One day, what feels unclear now may make sense. One day, what feels delayed now may reveal its purpose. One day, what feels silent now may speak. But for now, you are here, and being here does not mean you are behind. It does not mean you are forgotten. It does not mean you are alone. As this episode comes to a close, carry this with you. God is not only present in the breakthrough, He is present in the silence. He is not only working when you can see it. He is working even when you cannot. And the same God who brought resurrection out of what looked like an ending is still working in the spaces that feel unfinished in your life. Take one final breath. You are not abandoned. You are in between, and in between is where God often does His deepest work. Until next time, stay steady, stay open, and trust that silence is not the end of the story.